The emergency klaxons of the Prometheus cut through the artificial gravity like a surgical blade, their crimson light painting the bridge in apocalyptic hues. Commander Elena Rodriguez gripped the quantum adaptive command interface, her fingers dancing across holographic displays that flickered between real-time tactical data and the ghosts of dying star systems. 17 minutes earlier, the Galactic Concordance's most powerful fleet had been a testament to millions of years of technological evolution. Now, it was nothing more than a graveyard of fractured hulls and dissipating energy signatures. The Void Collective had struck, with a precision that defied comprehension, each attack a quantum-level strike that unraveled matter itself. "Status report," Elena commanded, her voice a controlled hurricane of contained fury. Lieutenant Amir Khan's hands moved across his station, pulling up holographic feeds that told a story of absolute devastation. Concordance main fleet, total, loss. Estimated 94.3 trillion sentient beings eliminated in the initial strike. The Zarkak's defensive line has been completely annihilated. Elena's augmented eyes, a product of humanity's desperate technological adaptations, zoomed into the YAO tactical display. Where other commanders would see only chaos, she saw patterns. Impossible fractal patterns that suggested something far more complex than a simple invasion. The bridge crew of the Prometheus was unlike any military unit in galactic history. Humans, yes, but enhanced. Quantum-linked neural networks allowed them to process information at speeds that made the most advanced alien AI look like primitive calculating machines. Each crew member was both an individual and part of a greater whole, a living, thinking network that could adapt faster than any known threat. A holographic transmission flickered to life. The last surviving admiral of the Zarkak's empire materialized, a being of living crystal whose fracturing form told a story of imminent destruction. His voice, translated through multiple quantum linguistic filters, carried the weight of a dying civilization. "We are not the first to fall." The admiral's crystalline form shimmered, fragments of his body breaking away like melting ice. "You are humanity's last hope." The transmission cut out as his ship imploded, compressed into a singularity no larger than a molecule. Silence descended on the bridge. Elena knew the statistics, knew them in her bones, in her augmented neural pathways. The Void Collective had systematically eliminated 217 advanced civilizations in the past solar cycle. Each civilization more advanced than the last. Each one believing they had a strategy, a technology, a method to stop the extra-dimensional threat. Each one wrong. "Display the galactic threat map," she ordered. The bridge transformed. A three-dimensional holographic representation of the galaxy erupted around them. A living, breathing entity mapped in quantum-entangled light. Red zones expanded like cancerous growths, consuming star systems, dimensional boundaries, entire realities. The Void Collective wasn't just destroying, it was consuming, rewriting the fundamental laws of existence with each system it absorbed. Lieutenant Khan's voice cut through her thoughts. "Commander, we're receiving emergency transmissions from the Concordance Council. They're requesting what?" Elena's laugh was a razor's edge. "Requesting we surrender? Requesting we wait to be consumed?" Her hand brushed against a small holographic artifact mounted near her command chair. A fragment of technology, recovered from humanity's most desperate moments. A reminder of how they had survived when others had fallen. Humanity had always been the universe's underdog, emerging from a tiny blue planet, dismissed by elder civilizations, considered primitive and insignificant, but they had something the others did not. And capacity for absolute unreasonable hope, an ability to see possibility where others saw only destruction. "Prepare quantum jump coordinates," Elena commanded. "We're going to do something no one expects." The crew moved with a synchronicity that defied traditional military training. Each action was both individual and collective, a living, breathing organism of human potential. Outside the ship's quantum-shielded hull, the remnants of the Galactic Concordance's fleet continued to drift. Millions of years of technological advancement reduced to cosmic debris, but the Prometheus remained, a single ship, the last hope. And hope, as humanity had always known, was the most dangerous weapon in the universe. The Galactic Concordance Council chamber was a marvel of trans-dimensional architecture, a space that existed simultaneously, in multiple realities, its walls composed of living metamaterials that shifted and breathed with the collective consciousness of the universe's most ancient civilizations. Dr. Marcus Chen stood alone at the center of this cosmic amphitheater, his human frame looking impossibly small against the towering, translucent forms of the council members. Each representative was a living testament to millennia of evolutionary refinement, beings so advanced they had long since transcended physical limitations. Krelax, the arch-mediator, dominated the chamber. A being of pure energy and crystalline thought, Krelax's form constantly reshaped itself, one moment a fractal constellation, the next a living network of quantum threads. When it spoke, the very fabric of reality seemed to tremble. Dr. Chen, the entity's voice resonated through multiple dimensional frequencies. Your proposal is an insult to the collective wisdom of civilizations that have existed for millions of your planetary cycles. Marcus didn't flinch. Years of xenoarchaeological research had prepared him for this moment. The holographic display behind him erupted with a complex tapestry of data, archaeological findings, quantum probability matrices, and genetic trace patterns that told a story far more complex than anyone in the chamber wanted to hear. The evidence is irrefutable, Marcus began, his voice calm and precise. Humanity's technological development is not random. It's a precise quantum-level response to cosmic threats that have been systematically targeting emerging civilizations. A ripple of contempt passed through the council. The Vernac representative, a being of liquid light and mathematical precision, shifted its form in what could only be interpreted as a dismissive gesture. Humans, the Vernac's translation matrix intoned, are barely more advanced than carbon-based, primitive computation devices. Your species has existed for a mere fraction of a cosmic moment. Marcus activated the next layer of his presentation. Genetic maps appeared, showing intricate quantum entanglement patterns that ran through human DNA. Each strand told a story of precise, almost impossible modifications. These are not natural mutations, Marcus explained. These are deliberate, quantum-level interventions. Someone, or something, has been guiding human development with a precision that defies current understanding of genetic engineering. The chamber fell silent. Krelax's form condensed, becoming more defined. Explain. Marcus knew this was the moment that could change everything. He pulled up a series of archaeological findings, artifacts recovered from sites across human history. Each one seemed mundane at first glance. A strange metallic fragment from an ancient Mesopotamian dig, a quantum-resonant crystal found in a Mayan temple, a piece of technology discovered in the depths of the Mariana Trench that predated human civilization by hundreds of thousands of years. These are not random artifacts, Marcus continued. They are quantum markers, pieces of a cosmic puzzle that suggest humanity is not an accident. We are a deliberate response to a threat that has been consuming civilizations across multiple dimensions. The Vernac's form flickered. For the first time, something resembling concern entered its transmission. The Void Collective, Marcus said, his voice dropping to a whisper that somehow filled the entire chamber, is not just destroying civilizations, it's testing them, culling those that do not meet a specific quantum potential. Krelax moved closer. The arch-mediator's quantum threads began to analyze the data, running probability matrices that stretched across multiple realities. Impossible, the entity muttered, but there was a note of uncertainty in its cosmic voice. Marcus knew he was treading on dangerous ground. The research that brought him here had cost him everything: his academic career, his family, his entire understanding of human history, but someone had to tell the truth. Humanity is a weapon, he said simply, a quantum-level response to a threat that has been consuming civilizations for millions of years. We are not an accident. We are a deliberate creation. The silence that followed was absolute. In that moment, The ancient civilizations of the universe realized something terrifying. The species they had dismissed as primitive might be their only hope of survival, and they were not prepared for what humanity was about to do. The void between dimensions was not empty. It was alive. 12 human ships hung like quantum-entangled ghosts against the fractal backdrop of a reality about to tear itself apart. The Prometheus at their center was less a vessel and more a living, neural network, each ship an extension of a collective consciousness that defied every known law of warfare. Commander Elena Rodriguez felt the battle before she saw it. Her neural implants, a symphony of human innovation and quantum adaptive technology, processed information at speeds that would have liquefied an ordinary brain. Around her, the bridge of the Prometheus breathed with a collective intelligence. Void collective detection grid approaching, Lieutenant Amir Khan reported, his voice a calm counterpoint to the chaos building around them. Dimensional stress, markers increasing. We have approximately 3.7 minutes before complete spatial destabilization. Elena's augmented eyes tracked impossible trajectories. Where traditional military doctrine saw chaos, she saw a living, breathing, mathematical equation. The Quantum Resonance Network, QRN, wasn't just a combat system, it was a new form of collective consciousness. Activate Quantum Entanglement Protocol, she commanded. The 12 ships moved as a single organism, not in formation. That was too primitive a concept. They moved as a living wave of probability, each vessel simultaneously occupying multiple potential positions. To the Void Collective's sensors, it would look like a meaningless dance of quantum uncertainty, but it was far more than that. Each ship was a node in a living, thinking network. The crews weren't just operators. They were living computational components of a massive, distributed intelligence. Their neural networks linked through quantum channels that transcended traditional communication, creating a combat intelligence that was more than the sum of its parts. The first wave of Void collective attack came like a dimensional tsunami. Fractal weapons that could unravel matter at its most fundamental level erupted around the human fleet. Any conventional force would have been annihilated in microseconds. The human ships didn't dodge. They adapted. Each incoming weapon became part of the QRN's computational matrix. The ships didn't just avoid destruction, they absorbed the attack, analyzed it, and used its own energy against it. It was warfare as a living, evolving organism. Quantum synchronization at 87%, Khan announced. The number meant nothing to anyone but the crew. To them, it was a heartbeat, a living pulse of collective potential. Elena saw the battle as a massive, multi-dimensional chess game played across realities. But it wasn't about winning or losing. It was about rewriting the fundamental rules of engagement. A Void collective. Command ship materialized, a construct of impossible geometry that could phase through multiple dimensional barriers. Its weapons could unravel entire star systems in milliseconds. The human fleet didn't move to attack. They became the attack. Quantum entanglement turned the entire space around the Void ship into a computational battlefield. The human vessels weren't just ships anymore, they were living algorithms, rewriting the very fabric of reality with each microsecond of engagement. Quantum dissolution protocol initiated, Elena whispered. The battle wasn't happening in three-dimensional space. It was a war of probabilities, of potential realities collapsing and reforming faster than thought could follow. The Void Collective's sensors struggled to track a force that existed simultaneously everywhere and nowhere. Khan's voice cut through the quantum noise. Commander, we're generating dimensional stress patterns that shouldn't be mathematically possible. Elena allowed herself the briefest moment of a smile. That's the point. The Void Collective command ship began to fracture, not from physical damage, but from a complete computational breakdown. The human fleet was rewriting its fundamental existence, turning its own dimensional phasing abilities against it. In less than 47 seconds, the most advanced weapon in the Void Collective's arsenal was reduced to quantum foam, a statistical probability, with no meaningful existence. The 12 ships reformed, their quantum links humming with a living intelligence that was equal parts mathematical precision and pure, unreasonable human potential. They had done more than win a battle. They had demonstrated a fundamental truth about humanity. When pushed to the brink, humans didn't just survive. They rewrote the rules of survival itself. The archive of forgotten realities was not a place. It was a wound in the fabric of existence. Dr. Marcus Chen moved through quantum-stabilized corridors that existed between dimensions, his specialized archaeological scanning equipment chirping with impossible readings. Each step was a negotiation with reality itself, a delicate dance across probability matrices that would have driven a lesser mind to instantaneous fracture. Hidden within a pocket dimension that existed simultaneously everywhere and nowhere, the archive was the ultimate repository of cosmic secrets. Civilizations rose and fell, entire realities collapsed, but the archive remained, a library of extinction written in the fundamental language of the universe. His latest discovery was tucked away in a data crystal no larger than a human thumbnail. Recovered from the quantum-encrypted remains of a Zarkax research station, the crystal contained fragments of a narrative that would unravel everything the Galactic Concordance believed about their own history. Genetic Manipulation Protocol Omega-9, Marcus muttered, decrypting layers of quantum-encrypted data. Not a research project, a species-level intervention. The truth emerged in fractured pieces. The Galactic Concordance hadn't just been observing emerging civilizations. They had been cultivating them, pruning them, testing them. Humanity was not an accident. They were an experiment. A holographic interface materialized around Marcus, projecting genetic maps that stretched across multiple dimensional planes. Each strand of DNA told a story of precise, almost impossible modifications. Quantum markers, embedded so deeply that they were indistinguishable from natural genetic progression. He traced the genetic lineage, his own included. Generations of subtle interventions, specific traits enhanced, particular genetic combinations promoted. A species being carefully, meticulously shaped into a weapon. The Void Collective was not the real threat. It was the test. Marcus's fingers danced across the holographic interface, pulling apart layers of cosmic conspiracy. The archive responded to his touch, quantum-entangled data streams revealing fragments of a plan millions of years in the making. Civilizations weren't being destroyed. They were being evaluated. A transmission cut through his concentration. Elena Rodriguez's voice, compressed through multiple quantum encryption layers. Marcus, we've got a problem. The data from our last engagement doesn't make sense. He knew that tone. It was the sound of someone who had discovered something fundamentally wrong with reality. Talk to me, Marcus responded, his own scanning equipment continuing to parse the archive's secrets. The Void Collective's attack patterns, Elena explained. They're not random, they're methodical. Almost like a test, Marcus finished. The pieces were falling into place. The Galactic Concordance had been managing the evolution of intelligent life like a massive, multi-dimensional experiment. Humanity was their most promising subject, a species designed to be a cosmic immune response. But to what? A warning system, materialized in the archive's quantum interface. Something was trying to access the data, not hack it, not breach it. Something was attempting to rewrite the very fundamental structure of the information itself. Marcus worked faster. His hands became a blur of quantum adaptive motion, extracting and securing data fragments before they could be altered. Personal files, genetic records, intervention logs. One particular file caught his attention, a genetic marker that ran through his own family line. Not just a marker, a specific quantum adaptive sequence that had been deliberately cultivated over generations. He was part of the experiment. Not just a researcher, a subject. The archive shuddered. Dimensional stress indicators spiked. Whatever was trying to access the data was getting closer. Marcus knew he had moments to complete his work, to preserve the truth that could save, or destroy, everything. Elena, he transmitted. Prepare for a data transfer. What I'm about to send you will change everything we understand about our existence. Outside the pocket dimension, reality itself seemed to hold its breath. Humanity's true purpose was about to be revealed. The Galactic Concordance Council chamber transformed as Dr. Marcus Chen began his presentation. Holographic projections erupted like living constellations, quantum-entangled data streams weaving a narrative that would shatter everything the ancient civilizations believed about themselves. "You are not managers of cosmic evolution," Marcus declared, his voice cutting through multiple dimensional frequencies. "You are participants in a system you do not understand." Krelax, the arch-mediator, condensed its form, a gesture of intense concentration that would have crushed an ordinary mind. The being's quantum threads analyzed every millisecond of Chen's presentation, searching for any weakness, any possibility of contradiction. They would find none. Marcus's primary display showed a living map of civilizational development across multiple dimensions. Each civilization was a thread of probability, a potential response to a threat so profound that it defied traditional comprehension. "The Void Collective is not a random destructive force," Marcus explained. "It is a testing mechanism, a cosmic filter designed to identify and elevate species with specific quantum adaptive capabilities." The Vernock representative, a being of liquid mathematics, shifted uncomfortably. Its form rippled with quantum uncertainty, unable to fully process the implications. "Humanity," Marcus continued, "is not an accident. We are a precisely engineered solution to a problem that has been consuming civilizations for millions of years." He activated the next layer of his presentation. Genetic maps transformed into complex probability matrices, showing how human DNA contained quantum adaptive sequences that could rewrite fundamental physical laws. "Look," Marcus commanded, zooming into a molecular-level display, "at how human genetic potential differs from every other known species." Traditional evolutionary models showed incremental changes. Humanity's genetic progression was a quantum leap, impossible adaptations that emerged not through gradual mutation, but through precise, almost intentional modifications. The chamber fell silent. Elena Rodriguez stood at the back of the chamber, her quantum adaptive neural implants processing the presentation in real time. She understood something the ancient civilizations did not. Humanity's strength was not in its technology, but in its fundamental approach to existence, adaptability, creativity, the ability to rewrite the rules when the rules no longer worked. "We are not a weapon," Marcus said, his voice dropping to a whisper that somehow filled the entire dimensional space. "We are an immune response, a living solution to a cosmic problem that has been consuming civilizations for eons." The Concordance members began to understand. Humanity was not just another species to be managed or controlled. They were a fundamental correction mechanism for the universe itself. Krelax moved closer to Marcus, quantum threads extending to analyze the data more precisely. "Explain," the entity demanded. Marcus pulled up a final display, a complex mathematical model that showed the progression of civilizations across multiple dimensional planes. Most followed predictable patterns. Humanity's trajectory was a wild, impossible curve that defied every known model of development. "The Void Collective consumes civilizations that cannot adapt," Marcus explained. "Humanity doesn't just adapt. We transform. We rewrite the fundamental equations of existence." The implications were staggering. Humanity was not just surviving. They were evolving in real time, creating solutions to problems that hadn't even emerged yet. Elena's neural link vibrated with a message from the Prometheus. Another Void Collective incursion was forming at the edge of known space. But this time, something was different. The human fleet was ready. Not just with technology, but with a fundamental understanding that no other civilization possessed: the ability to change the game entirely. "We are not asking for your permission," Marcus said, his final words hanging in the dimensional space, like a quantum challenge. "We are telling you how the universe actually works." In that moment, the ancient civilizations of the universe realized something terrifying. Humanity was not just another species. They were the universe's method of self-correction. The quantum dissolution weapon was not a device. It was a collaborative hallucination made real. Deep within the most secure research facility humanity had ever constructed, a laboratory that existed simultaneously in multiple dimensional planes, Dr. Elena Rodriguez and Dr. Marcus Chen worked at the absolute boundary of scientific possibility. Surrounding them, a team of the most advanced human minds ever assembled moved with a synchronicity that defied traditional understanding of collaboration. Each researcher was simultaneously an individual and part of a collective consciousness. Their neural networks linked through quantum adaptive interfaces that transformed individual thought into a living, breathing computational matrix. Dimensional. Stress tolerances are approaching critical threshold, announced Dr. Arya Nakamura, her hands dancing across holographic interfaces that seemed to breathe with living light. We're pushing beyond theoretical quantum mechanics into something else. The weapon they were creating was more than a technological solution. It was a fundamental reimagining of how reality could be manipulated. Marcus studied the core interface, a crystalline structure that was part computational device, part living organism. Quantum-entangled data streams revealed impossible geometries, mathematical constructions that existed simultaneously as both weapon and mathematical proof. We're not just creating a device to fight the Void Collective, Marcus explained to Elena. We're creating a method to rewrite the fundamental rules of dimensional interaction. Elena understood. Her background in quantum warfare had prepared her for radical concepts. But this was something else entirely. The quantum dissolution weapon wasn't designed to destroy. It was designed to fundamentally alter the fabric of space-time around extra-dimensional threats. The core of the device was a marvel of human ingenuity, a living computational matrix that could analyze and adapt to dimensional threats faster than thought could follow. Each component was a quantum adaptive system that could rewrite its own fundamental parameters in real time. Collective neural synchronization at 93%, Arya reported. The number meant more than a statistical measurement. It was a living pulse of human potential. Marcus pulled up a holographic display showing the weapon's theoretical operational parameters. It wasn't a traditional weapon in any sense. Traditional weapons destroyed. This device would fundamentally alter the quantum rules that allowed extra-dimensional threats to exist. We're creating a dimensional immune response, Elena said, her voice a mixture of scientific precision and something closer to wonder. The device required the simultaneous mental engagement of every human with specific quantum adaptive neural markers, not just the researchers in the facility. Every human with the right genetic potential across multiple star systems, a collective consciousness weaponized. Preliminary tests are showing quantum resonance patterns that shouldn't be mathematically possible, Arya announced. Her voice carried a note of excitement that bordered on religious revelation. The weapon's core began to pulse. Not with light or energy as traditionally understood, but with probability. Mathematical potentials that existed in multiple states, simultaneously. It was less a device and more a living computational hypothesis. Marcus understood the deeper implications. This wasn't just a weapon against the Void Collective. It was humanity's method of communicating with the fundamental fabric of reality itself. We're not fighting, he muttered, more to himself than anyone else. We're negotiating. Elena watched the quantum matrices dance. Each potential configuration was a conversation with the universe, a way of saying, we understand the rules, and we're going to change them. The facility itself seemed to hold its breath. Quantum adaptive shielding responded to the weapon's development, creating layers of dimensional protection that would have been impossible just months earlier. Final synchronization sequence initiated, Arya announced. The entire facility transformed. What had been a research center became something else. A living, thinking organ of human potential. Each researcher connected not just through technology, but through a fundamental quantum connection that transcended traditional understanding of consciousness. Marcus looked at Elena. We're ready. The quantum dissolution weapon pulsed, not with destructive energy, but with a mathematical possibility that would rewrite everything humanity understood about their place in the universe. They were no longer just a species, they were a method of cosmic problem-solving. The battle was not happening in space. It was happening in the fundamental fabric of reality itself. 12 human ships hung like quantum-entangled ghosts against a backdrop that was simultaneously everywhere and nowhere. The Prometheus at their center was more than a vessel. It was a living neural network, a collective consciousness that had transcended every known limitation of warfare. Commander Elena Rodriguez was no longer just a commander. She was a living computational matrix. Her consciousness expanded beyond the physical limitations of her body. Neural interfaces that once connected a crew now connected an entire species. Quantum synchronization at 98.7%, Lieutenant Amir Khan's voice echoed through multiple dimensional frequencies, but it wasn't just a voice. It was a mathematical computation, a living probability wave that represented the collective potential of human consciousness. The Void Collective's attack came from beyond conventional dimensional barriers. Fractal weapons that could unravel. Matter at its most fundamental level erupted around the human fleet. Weapons that had systematically destroyed 217 advanced civilizations now faced something entirely unprecedented. Humanity's collective consciousness. Each incoming dimensional strike was not just detected, it was analyzed, understood, transformed. The human ships moved in patterns that defied every known law of physics, not in formation. That was too primitive a concept. They moved as a living wave of probability, each vessel simultaneously occupying multiple potential positions. To the Void Collective's sensors, it would look like a meaningless dance of quantum uncertainty, but it was far more than that. Elena's consciousness expanded. She could feel every quantum entanglement, every potential trajectory of the battle. The quantum dissolution weapon wasn't just a device. It was a living extension of human potential, a method of cosmic communication that rewrote the fundamental rules of engagement. Dimensional stress markers increasing, Khan reported. But the words were more than a report. They were a living, mathematical equation, a computational analysis that happened faster than thought could follow. The Void Collective's primary command ship materialized, a construct of impossible geometry that could phase through multiple dimensional barriers. Its weapons could unravel entire star systems in milliseconds. The human fleet didn't move to attack. They became the attack. Quantum entanglement turned the entire space around the Void ship into a computational battlefield. The human vessels weren't just ships anymore. They were living algorithms, rewriting the very fabric of reality with each microsecond of engagement. Dr. Marcus Chen's voice cut through the quantum noise. Quantum dissolution weapon charging. Collective consciousness synchronization at critical threshold. What happened next was not a battle in any traditional sense. It was a negotiation with the fundamental nature of existence. The human fleet didn't destroy the Void Collective's command ship. They transformed it, rewrote its fundamental quantum parameters, turned a weapon of dimensional destruction into a living computational problem that could not exist in its original form. Elena's consciousness expanded to a point beyond individual perception. She was simultaneously the commander of the Prometheus, every human in the fleet and something more. A living, thinking network that represented the collective potential of an entire species. Dimensional Reformation Protocol initiated, she spoke. Though spoke was too limited a term for the quantum communication that rippled across multiple realities. The Void Collective's sensors struggled to comprehend a force that existed simultaneously everywhere and nowhere. A computational strategy that didn't just fight, but fundamentally changed the rules of engagement. In less than 73 seconds, the most advanced dimensional weapon in the Void Collective's arsenal was reduced to a mathematical possibility with no meaningful existence. The 12 ships reformed, their quantum links humming with an intelligence that was equal parts mathematical precision and pure, unreasonable human potential. They had done more than win a battle. They had demonstrated a fundamental truth about humanity. When pushed to the absolute limit of existence, humans didn't just survive. They rewrote the rules of survival itself. And they did it together. The universe held its breath. In the aftermath of the battle, reality itself seemed to recalibrate. The Galactic Concordance Council chamber, once a bastion of ancient, immovable power, now looked like a museum of obsolete concepts. Commander Elena Rodriguez stood at the center, no longer just a military leader, but something more. The quantum entanglement of the final battle had transformed her. Her consciousness existed in a state beyond individual perception, a living bridge between humanity's potential and the fundamental fabric of reality. Dr. Marcus Chen stood beside her, the archaeological fragments of cosmic conspiracy now a living testament to humanity's true nature. Kralax, the arch-mediator, had been fundamentally altered. The being of pure energy and quantum threads now pulsed with a new understanding. Where once there was dismissal, now there was something closer to respect. "You are not what we expected," Kralax said, its dimensional communication carrying a tone that was almost impossibly close to wonder. Elena's response was not spoken. It was a quantum communication that rippled across multiple realities, a living demonstration of how humanity processed existence. The Void Collective's defeat was more than a military victory. It was a fundamental reimagining of cosmic survival. Across hundreds of star systems, humans who had been part of the collective consciousness during the battle began to understand something profound. They were no longer just individuals. They were nodes in a living, thinking network that could adapt faster than any threat could emerge. Dr. Arya Nakamura's research team was already analyzing the quantum data from the battle. What they discovered was not a weapon. It was a method of cosmic communication, a way of understanding threats that went beyond traditional defensive strategies. "We didn't just fight," Marcus explained to the assembled representatives of the Galactic Concordance. "We negotiated with the fundamental nature of existence." The implications were staggering. Humanity had not just survived. They had demonstrated a method of problem-solving that transcended traditional understanding of conflict, intelligence, and survival. The quantum markers in human DNA, those precise, almost impossible modifications that had been part of a million-year experiment, were now fully activated. Each human was simultaneously an individual and part of a collective potential that could reshape reality itself. Aboard the Prometheus, Lieutenant Amir Khan reviewed the battle data. But review was too limited a concept. He was participating in a living analysis that stretched across multiple dimensional planes. Each data point was a living conversation with the universe. The ancient civilizations began to understand. Humanity was not just another species to be managed or controlled. They were a fundamental correction mechanism for the cosmos, a living immune system for reality itself. The Galactic Concordance's traditional power structures crumbled. Millions of years of carefully maintained dimensional politics collapsed in the face of humanity's fundamental approach to existence. Adaptation was not just a strategy, it was a way of being. Elena looked out at the transformed galaxy. The quantum entanglement of the final battle had rewritten fundamental dimensional barriers. Star systems that were once isolated now existed in a living, communicative network. "We're not conquerors," she communicated across multiple realities. "We're problem solvers." Marcus understood the deeper truth. The Void Collective had been a test, not just of humanity, but of the universe's ability to generate a solution to its own fundamental challenges. Humanity was that solution. The first waves of human expansion began. But this was not traditional colonization. Each new star system became a node in a living thinking network. Humans brought not just technology, but a fundamental way of understanding existence that transformed everything they touched. Kralax watched as human ships moved in patterns that defied traditional understanding of space travel. Each vessel was simultaneously a physical construct and a living computational matrix. "They are changing the rules," the Arch-Mediator communicated to the remaining Concordance members. And that was exactly the point. Humanity had always been more than a species. They were the universe's method of continuous reinvention, beyond survival, beyond conquest. A living solution to the fundamental challenges of existence.